Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good whatever, good everything. My name is Jason Weiss, and I am here today on the GoingSoloMedia.com network. This show is Ask Jason Weiss. I am your host and your guest today. I know that's not the normal, but I have been getting so many emails and phone calls and questions and things that are there that I figured might as well just do a Q&A with myself based on what some of you have asked about. So before we go down that path, I have to give my disclaimer because today I'm going to be speaking a little bit more about legal. So nothing discussed today constitutes legal advice. Should you need legal advice, you should consult an attorney directly and speak with him or her directly. Nothing I give today is legal advice. Do not rely upon anything I say. I am not your attorney. I would maybe like to be your attorney, but I am not your attorney today, and nothing discussed is legal advice. So with that started, we're going to get straight into one of the questions that came up a couple of times now. And the question is, what is the difference between an LLC and a corporation or an Inc? So LLC stands for Limited Liability Company, and an Inc means you're incorporated. Now, different rules for different states. And I'm only going to talk about 2 states today. I'm going to talk about Florida, where I'm licensed to practice, where I currently sit, and where I'm allowed to practice as a lawyer. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about Las Vegas. Why Las Vegas? Well, one of my clients is Las Vegas based, and I am their general counsel, and I'm in-house for them. And it came across an LLC and an Inc issue. And what did we do? We, of course, got local Nevada counsel, and local Nevada counsel taught me something new, which is that you get different protections in Las Vegas and Nevada for an LLC than you would here in the state of Florida. So going back, what is an LLC? An LLC is a limited liability company. You have what is called managers and members. You can manage the company and not be a member. You could be a member of the company and not be a manager. Depends how you set it up. Why would you want to use an LLC? You use an LLC because it's a limited liability company, just like it says. Your exposure and your liability is limited, which is great. That gives you protection. Now, what is a corporation? Corporation in the state of Florida also gives you protections. It also gives you ways to get around personal liability. So what's the big difference? Well, there's a couple of differences. Number one is, I would ask you the question, how many members or how many people are going to be involved? If it is 1, then I would tell you first, go speak with your accountant. Make sure that your accountant, from a tax perspective, agrees that an LLC is the way to go, or a corporation is the way to go. And I'll get into a little bit of the difference in a minute. But if you are a single member LLC and your accountant doesn't give you the tax advice that you have to be an LLC, then I would try to convince you in Florida to go ahead and set up a corporation instead of a limited liability company. Why? You get greater protections as a single member corporation than you will get as a single member limited liability company. So what do you want to do? If you're by yourself, you want to be a corporation. If you have other people that are part of you and part of the company, then you can go ahead and pick between an LLC or a corp. And again, start with your accountant. Ask him or her, hey, what's best for me tax-wise? Now, when you set up a corporation with your partners or with your other people involved, you then need to go ahead and pick your tax election status. And you could be a C Corp or an S Corp. most accountants are going to tell you if you can be an S Corp and there are certain criteria that you have to look at on the IRS website, then that's what you want. Why? An S Corp helps you avoid some of the double taxation and different levels and all of this. And I'm not a tax lawyer, and I don't try to play one on TV, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But speak to your accountant. So going back, if you're by yourself, I would recommend setting up a corporation. If you have partners or other people involved, then an LLC or a corporation, depending on what your accountant says. And I would also take a guess that your accountant will tell you whichever one you choose, you can still pick your S Corp election. Now, one thing I did not mention was that if you are a corporation, then you become officers and directors and shareholders, and you could have a president and a vice president and a CEO and a director and a secretary and all of that. You do not have that in an LLC. You just have members and managing members and managers. Okay, now that's Florida. What I learned a couple of weeks ago is that with regard to Las Vegas, Nevada, specifically, a single member LLC gives you the same protection, if not better, than a corporation. So when my client was talking and we were chatting and it was going to be a single member, I was adamant, do not go the LLC route, do not do this. And it's funny because the attorney over there told me, Jason, why are you so against it? Here are our rules. Here are our statutes in Nevada. And I went, holy cow, we don't have that here in Florida. So it was eye-opening. I didn't know that. I thought it was across the board. That's why I don't try to practice law in anywhere where I am not admitted. I'm only admitted in Florida and Washington, D.C., and those are the only two places I practice in state court. I'm admitted in many other federal districts, but those are the only two state districts, which loops me into a second question from a law school student that came in recently, that he heard me speak about, hey, Jason, you say you're licensed in Florida and D.C., but you also talk about your federal license. Can you explain that? So each state has its own bar license. And now that newer attorneys and people, they have what's called the multi-state bar exam or the uniform bar exam where you can opt into other states. But when old guy here took the bar, you just take it state by state. So I took the Florida bar and I did well enough on the Florida bar that I was also eligible to opt in and take requirements and do certain trainings to become licensed in Washington, D.C. So I am licensed in both of those, and I can take on state court cases in both of those states. I then also did all the qualifications here in Florida to be in the Southern, Middle, and Northern District courts. So I am admitted there. I either took a test or I paid an admission or I passed a background check, whatever the requirements are. I've also gone ahead and applied for and got admitted into the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, so I can handle appeals. Excuse me. I have not gotten into the Supreme Court of the United States or the Supreme Court of Florida yet, but that is on my list of things to do. And I also became a mediator, which is a whole separate thing, and I'll get into that one next. So let's put a star next to mediator and move it aside. Then as I was taking on more and more clients in different states and handling federal work, I looked into how to get admitted in each of the federal courts. So I applied to the Northern District of Illinois, and I got admitted. So now I can take a federal case in Illinois and work on the case. Same thing with Indiana. Same thing with portions of New York. And there's different criteria. So you go to each federal court's website, you read the application, you fill it out, you pay a fee, you apply. If you get admitted, you get admitted. So I've been doing that. And that just allows me to be more full service for my clients. Now, I want to be very clear. If someone says to me, hey, Jason, I was in a car accident in Chicago. Can you handle the case for me? The answer is no. I am not admitted there. I can refer you to a great law firm in Chicago that happen to be friends of mine, and they do a phenomenal job, but I couldn't handle it. So what does that mean for me? That means that I try to get contacts, connections, and other attorneys all over the US so that if something comes in the door, I could say, hey, look, I can't handle it, but Mary over in Ohio, she's awesome. She'll handle it for you. I'll do the intro. I'll help you out. And I think that's one of the things that I bring to the table for my clients. I'm always willing to help. And even if I can't drive the ship, I still want to be on board and I still want to help out. Now, I mentioned mediation. One of the questions that came in a couple of times, especially after we had Mark Greenberg on the show, was, I'm still a little confused. What's the difference between mediation and arbitration? Can you explain that? So sure, the difference between mediation and arbitration is that one is binding and one is not. Arbitration is binding. You go in front of a panel of 1, 3, 5, however many arbitrators, and it's like a mini trial. You put on witnesses, you put on evidence, they hear both sides, and they make a decision. They could decide one way, they could decide the other way, they could split the baby. That's arbitration. And whatever the arbitrator decides is just like a judge handing down an order, and here you go. Mediation is most of the time mandatory, sometimes not, but in most jurisdictions, it's mandatory that you do that before you go to trial, and it is non-binding. So your participation could be ordered by a judge where you must go participate and you must do what you've got to do, but you have every right to say, let's go ahead and let's take it, or you know what, I don't like the offer, and we impasse. We walk away. We each go our own way. And that's the difference between arbitration and mediation. So if you ever want to think about it, arbitration is binding and final. Mediation is you get to make the decision. You know, I sued you for $100,000. I can walk away with $60,000 today. Do I want to? I don't know. Maybe 65 and we can get it done. As opposed to arbitration, which is I sued you for $100,000 and the arbitrators determined that we're 50-50, so I only get 50 grand. And again, that's the difference. Now, I will say this, because of my love for sports, I want to throw in one small change, and it comes to baseball arbitration. Baseball arbitration is a little bit different. When you're arbitrating and these baseball players and they go to arbitration, it's really not a, here's the whole story, arbitrator, you pick. Baseball arbitration is, I'm going to give you my number. I think I'm worth $100 million over 5 years. And the team's going to give their number. We think you're worth $80 million over 5 years. The arbitrator picks. It's not a, let's split the baby and go to 90. It's, nope, 80 million, 90 million. That's it. And that's the dice you roll in baseball arbitration. That's also the dice you roll in arbitration as a whole. You're still having someone else decide it. Personally, me, when I'm working on contracts, I take out the arbitration clause and I put in that before a lawsuit is filed, it's mandatory mediation, which means you go, you get to hear their side. They get to hear your side. The mediator will pick apart your case. They'll tell you why your argument is wrong, or they'll tell you to consider this, or they'll think about that, and they'll maybe get the wheels spinning. And you can decide right then and there, great, I want to go to trial. I want the judge to hear my story. I want a final, or maybe it's not as strong as I thought. Let me think about it, So that's the difference between arbitration and mediation. Now, I am a certified mediator for the state of Florida, so I can mediate cases. I've done some. That hasn't been the primary focus of my practice. I'm trying to do more and more. So if anybody listening wants a mediator or wants somebody involved, I'm here. and I would love to help you with mediating. And that's the difference between the two. All right, we're going to get into one more before we take a break. Just looking down my list. Let's go back to the corporation LLC thing real quick. One of the questions was, and it actually just got posed, why do I need either? And the question is, why do you need a corporation or an LLC? You want to avoid personal liability. You own your house, which is not a great example in Florida because we have homestead protection. But let's just say, let's take the house out. You own a car, you have a bank account, you have all of that. And you get sued and you lose. Well, they're allowed to collect on their judgment. They can come take your car, your bank account, your dog, your cat. They can take all of that because there's a monetary value, and they can take enough until the amount of the judgment is satisfied. If you have a properly set up corporation, or if you use multiple people, an LLC, what they can take is limited. If your corporation gets sued and you lose, then anything that the corporation has or owns, they can try to go ahead and collect. But if you own your car in your own name, no. You have a bank account in your own name, or in a name, even better, if you have it in the name of you and your spouse or your significant other, even better, even more protected. So what is the corporation and what is the LLC? What does it give you? It gives you protection. It gives you an added layer. And just, you got to make sure you follow the rules, though. You can't say, commingling funds and doing all this stuff. You really need to keep them separate. So what do I suggest? Make sure you have a bank account. Make sure you have an EIN number. Make sure it's active. Make sure you file taxes. Make sure you have a phone number. Make sure you have a mailing address that's not the same. These are the factors that are looked upon when they're trying to collect a judgment. And again, this is all based on the fact that, God forbid, you get sued and you lose. You don't want to lose everything. And that's a big thing. So what would I tell someone to do? If you're one person all by yourself in Florida, do a corporation, and you probably want to go ahead and get an S Corp election for taxes. If there's multiple people involved, an LLC or an Inc., it'll work. Still consult with your accountant. I still think you probably want to do an S Corp election as long as you can. And that's going to give you the most protection from liability. And again, that's what you're looking for. If you're in Vegas, different ball game. And I'm not going to give any type of legal opinion advice. I would just tell you, wherever you are, if you can't do it by yourself, hire an attorney and let him or her help. Now, I said if you can't do it by yourself. If you want to do it by yourself, which I always advise not to do it, you can go to sunbiz.org, follow the steps, pay the fees, and give it a shot. Again, I'm not advising you do it without a lawyer, but at the same time, you can. If there is a fear, you can't afford a lawyer, you can't do it. And if you're all by yourself, you're not talking thousands of dollars. You're talking hundreds. I just got a question in, so I'm going to answer this question, and then we're going to go to a break so we can thank our wonderful sponsors. So the question that was just posed, if you are a corporation and you work out of your house, how can you protect yourself without breaking the veil of a corporation, especially now when so many people are working from home? So when a court looks for it, or a judgment creditor looks for that, you are allowed to work from home. But what I would probably tell you to do is have a P.O. box. So work from home, but have a mailing address be somewhere else. And PO boxes are not very expensive. You could probably get them, anywhere from $9, $10, $12 a month, $20 a month, but it's the cost of doing business. And it just gives you that one little extra layer of protection. So you could work out of your home, but have a mailing address be somewhere separate. And that's going to show a little bit because you'll have your principal address, your mailing address there. Now, if you're working from home and people really aren't coming to see you, that's good. But if you are seeing clients and they're coming in and they're doing things, my suggestion would be get like a workspace, a Regis, a WeWork, rent a conference room from a friend. Don't meet people in your home unless your home has a separate designated office with its own door. And again, for that, I would recommend go speak to your accountant because he or she, will give you a better idea on what you could do for the IRS and write-offs and all that. And I'm not giving any type of tax advice. But my suggestion would be you have your registered agent be an attorney, which you would have to have a registered agent, and you list your mailing address as a PO box or somewhere else. Give a little bit of separation. It's not going to be you have your own bank account, you have your own EIN, you have your own this, you have your own that, and all that, but you work out of your house and now all of a sudden, no. Plus, here in Florida, we get homestead protection. So if you're working out of your house and you own it and you have homestead, a judgment cannot take away your house. Now, I'm not saying an IRS tax lien and government things. I'm not talking about that. Just a straight up civil lawsuit. You lose. If you have homestead and you've elected it, you're going to get that protection. So on that positive note, we're going to go ahead and we're going to break for commercial. And we're going to hear from our wonderful sponsors who I thank so that they allow me to do a show like this. Jason Weiss, answering questions. CC, roll the commercials. And we are back. Jason Weiss, Ask Jason Weiss show. I am here today answering some questions from viewers, but the important part today is it's just me, but nothing today constitutes legal advice. Should you seek legal advice, consult an attorney directly. This is not an attorney-client privilege, and any questions that are asked are not protected by the attorney-client privilege. So we've been talking about LLCs, corporations. We talked about mediation, arbitration, and I threw out something before we broke about a registered agent. What is a registered agent? A registered agent is when you have a business, that is the person, the law firm, the business, that if a court paper needs to be served, they hand it to that person. You could be your own registered agent. I don't advise because there are certain requirements of when you need to be available. And I think you must have, someone there and present and ready. I want to say between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. I could be off on the times. So it's usually better to have a business, a service or an attorney or an accountant, serve as your registered agent. But that's literally what a registered agent is there. Just like, people say to me all the time, oh, I'm getting sued and the process server showed up and I don't want to take the papers. You know what? Take the papers. You don't avoid it. You can't avoid it. You're not allowed to avoid it. Just take the papers and be very nice to the process server. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. And then you can go inside and get angry. Process server is just there handing you papers. And just because you take the papers doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It just means you've taken them. And you can't put your head in the sand, and you got to deal with it. So I'm going to roll into, hey, I got sued. What do I do? Okay, first thing you do is you look and you see that it's the right person. Did you get sued in your own name, or did you get sued as a corporation? Big, big, big difference. And what are you being sued for and all of this? So look, I tell everybody, you can't defend it on your own. If you're not a mechanic, you don't try to fix your car. If you're not a surgeon, you don't try to do surgery. So if you're not a lawyer, you probably shouldn't try to defend a case. And that's even more supported by, if you're not a lawyer, guess what? You can't represent even your corporation or your LLC. You could represent yourself if you got sued, but the laws in the state of Florida say that a corporation or an LLC must be represented by an attorney. You can go at it yourself for you, but a corporation or an LLC must be represented by an attorney. Now, there are small exceptions in small claims court and all, but the general rule is your corporation must be represented by an attorney. And you probably shouldn't go at it yourself unless you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, go for it. But if you're the common person, like myself, like everybody else, don't go at it yourself. Spend the money, hire an attorney, get it done right. And like a boss of mine used to say, and this is a shout out to you, Alan Fertel, for all the love and everything. It's like a Fram oil filter. You pay now or you pay later. So you might as well consult the attorney first before you enter into something, than to consult the attorney afterwards where he or she needs to undo everything and then get it straight. So that's my advocacy for you should hire an attorney, which slides me right into my next question, which is, I've heard you talk about law school, and if you had a chance to do it again, you're not sure you would do it. And as a coach, you're constantly telling people that they should think twice before going to law school. Why don't you think law school is for everyone? Well, law school's not for everybody. I've told the story in the past that I went to law school because I had a cousin that was a lawyer that drove a Jaguar, and I wanted the awesome car like him. And I came to find out 18 years later that that car was falling apart. It wasn't in great condition. It was given to him from a client that couldn't pay a bill. So all of that factored in. So I went to law school thinking I'm going to work hard, which I do. I'm going to make lots of money. So is law school for everyone? No. I have a 15-year-old son. Do I want him to go to law school? No. Does he want to go? Maybe. And what do I tell him to do? Well, if you get your JD or your law degree, that's great, but don't go practice law. Go use it for something else. Go get an MBA. Go learn business. Go learn computers. Go learn marketing. Go learn whatever it is you want to do. And I can't stress this enough. No matter what you decide to do with your life professionally, make sure you love it, because you're going to spend so much time doing it that you better love it. If you're going to spend all your time away from your family and your friends and your loved ones and missing meals and doing all this, just make sure you love it. Because, the old saying is, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. So you need to make sure it is you love what you do. Now, one of the things I love, roasting coffee. Another thing I love, going out of my yard and growing herbs and spices and fruits and vegetables. Could I make a living doing that? I don't know. So what do I have to do? I have to find a balance in life that allows me to work hard, earn a decent living, and then go ahead and get into the stuff that I love, which is coffee and growing things. And Cece was just so awesome that she just put up that you get a free sample of coffee if you email me. And all you need to do is send me a mailing address where you want it going and let me know if you want it ground or whole bean. So, one of the questions I got is tell me a little bit more about your coffee. So, I am in the process of growing my own beans. I haven't gotten a successful harvest yet, but I'm growing. And I actually have beans that have grown. They haven't turned red yet. And when they turn red, you can eat the outside, and the inside is the coffee bean, which comes out green. So what I've been doing, because I enjoy it, is I've been ordering various different green beans from all over the world. I currently and recently I've been on a Latin American kick. I've been loving the stuff coming out. And I have a couple of different roasters and a couple of different grinders, and I experiment. And when I find a setting and I find a temperature and I find a time and I find everything, I go ahead and I replicate it and I duplicate it. And most people have said to me, it is one of the best cups of coffee they have had. The taste is great. It's all there. Now, the one thing that I've learned about when I'm roasting as opposed to going into one of the other places is it's a little weaker. And I think it has to do with my roasting process. Excuse me. So what I tell people to do is if you're using an old school, scoop type thing, and if you normally use, 3 scoops, throw a 4th scoop in, and that'll give you the extra potency without losing. If it's one of the one of the pods that you put into your Keurig or other machine, instead of loosely, I tell you, pack it in really good. Give it a little bit of extra coffee bean because it makes it thick, not thicker, but darker and a stronger. But I love it. And I'm not even a huge coffee drinker. I love the smell. I love the aroma. I love getting my hands dirty. I love getting in. And that's where part of my passion is. So I work hard. I earn a decent living as an attorney. And what that allows me to do is to go ahead and fund my projects and go ahead and buy coffee. It allows me to give out free coffee. And that's the stuff that I love. And what I tell my coaching clients all the time and all of my people is that, you know what? If you love what you do, then you never work. And if you don't love what you do, but you're good at it and you make a nice living, then use spare time, use the income, and use whatever to allow you to do things. You know what? You don't love sitting at a desk in a cubicle, 40 hours a week, but you're paid good and you're doing whatever. Great. Go to the gym after work. Go on a bike ride. Go hiking. Go on vacations. Go on a cruise. Work remotely. Figure it out. And then do it. And if you need help and you need advice, I'm here. Contact me anytime. I'd be more than happy to speak with you. I'm more than happy to map it out and figure it out. And I've worked with some great coaches over the years that have gotten me to this place where I'm good. Like, I got it. Now, I work a ton, but I don't miss things. I'm at my kids' lacrosse games. I'm at dance shows. I could take one of my kids each morning to school. My wife takes the other one because I can't be in 2 places at once. That's just not possible yet. I haven't been cloned. I could pick my son up from lacrosse. I could pick my daughter up from dance. It's great. I love it. And I found that balance. Do I love every second of practicing law? No. Does any lawyer? No. But can I do it? Sure. Until my coaching takes off full time and I can do things full time. So great. So I allow the income I earn from being a lawyer to help me with my other projects and my other ventures. So one of the projects and ventures that I'm working on is with my son and my daughter and my wife, and it's called Long Pole for the number 4 Life. And what we're doing is we're trying to raise funds to get safety equipment to lacrosse players, because we want to make sure that they have the best helmets and the best chest protectors. So that's one of the projects. It allows me to do that. So I've gotten questions about it. So you can check it out anytime you want. longpole4life.com. Check it out. If you have questions, let me know. It is a 501c3. So that is the perfect segue. 501c3, what is that? People don't know what it is. A 501c3 is a non-for-profit that allows the person that is donating money to the 501c3 to get a tax write-off. So there are nonprofits and not-for-profits all over the world and all over. If they're not a 501c3, they're still legitimate. They still do great things. But you, as the person who donates, cannot write that off. But if it's a 501c3 and you donate $100, make sure your accountant knows, hey, I donated $100 to a 501c3. Can I get a tax credit for it? And the short answer is yes. What kind of credit? Don't know. Not a tax lawyer, not an accountant, don't know. But there are benefits, and you can get a benefit for doing a good deed. So that was that. And unfortunately, I've got a whole bunch of questions still that I really haven't gotten to. And I'm running out of time. So I'm going to touch on one of the questions, which has to do with social media. I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again. Social media is scary. It's awesome because I know where my friend went to Dunkin' Donuts and had a pumpkin spice latte, and it's great because I could see, the new picture of the newest addition to a family and the puppy and the this and the that, and we share, and it's awesome. Okay, share. We all know everything about each other. We don't have to pick up the phone and call anymore and ask questions. That's sarcasm. But the true thing that scares me about social media is that you now have something you can't take back. And I speak to student athletes about this all of the time. Now, I don't want to violate NCAA, so I don't speak to them as a lawyer. I don't speak to them as an agent, none of that. I speak to student athletes, and a lot of times I'll do it as a seminar or when I was teaching a law class. And I tell student athletes this all the time. Instagram, Facebook, all those things are phenomenal if you're promoting yourself. My son, Instagram account, lacrosse stuff all over the place. He's doing awesome. But we make sure that what he posts is appropriate. What do I mean by appropriate? You don't want a 19-year-old posting things with a beer in his or her hand. Why? Well, can't drink if you're under 21. It's illegal. It's against the law. Picture of me with a beer at 19? Probably not a good thing. College coach looks at that. Oh, we want that? No, probably not. You out there, kissing and hugging and doing and showing and blah, 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 and an inappropriate dress. And you got a record of that forever and ever and ever. Someone looks at it. They're more conservative. You're off their list. You're out and about. Everybody has a smartphone. Oh, man, look at him yelling at the waitress. Boom. Well, now you've got proof that you are a moron, that you didn't think straight, that you didn't do something correct. So use social media to promote yourself for the good things. Yes, and this is not true, but yes, I just got a puppy and here he is and he's the cutest thing. Nothing wrong with that. Yes, I scored the game-winning goal in my lacrosse tournament. Great. Here's me at 17 years old with beers in my hands and everybody else drinking beers and funnels and vodka and shots and all. Nope, don't want that. Here's a rap song that I love to play in the background, and it has offensive language in it. Here's a heavy metal song with offensive language in the background. No. So you need to be careful. And one piece of advice that an attorney friend of mine gave me years ago was, if you could tell your rabbi, your priest, your confidant, your mother, your father, your grandmother, if you could tell them, hey, this is what I did, and you wouldn't be like, oh, I kind of did this. This is what I did. This is how I'm doing it. This is how I'm handling it. This is my account. Then you're probably good to go. Because as one of my favorite movies, National Treasure, and one of the lines that they quote is a Mark Twain quote, that you're never wrong for doing the right thing. So if you think you are doing the right thing and you think that it will pass muster with that person that is your confidant, then go for it. But if you think, you know what, maybe I shouldn't post myself in the Budweiser t-shirt, or maybe I shouldn't have the beer in my hand because I'm only 17. Follow your gut, follow that voice in your head, and do that. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. And that's my fear of social media. So we're getting really, really, really towards the end. And there are so many more things that I could cover. And unfortunately, I don't have the time. But in a couple weeks, we'll go ahead. We'll do this again. Let more questions come in. I've actually had some questions for Dr. Bogart about some car accident stuff and about some gun safety stuff. I've had some questions come in for John Bradley, who spoke about music and entertainment. So I will do that again. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to have those gentlemen back on the show. So I'm working on a star-studded lineup. I can't wait to have everybody on the show. And I appreciate to all the listeners, watchers, and everybody who's given feedback. So again, I didn't get through the whole list of questions, but I will do it. So I am Jason Weiss. AskJasonWeiss.com. Jason at JSWLawyer.com. 954-573-2800. Nothing today was legal advice. It is just an overview. Take nothing I said and rely upon it. Do not change your actions based on anything I said. If anything I said, you want to talk more, call me, email me, contact me. Until 2 weeks from now, everybody have a happy and a healthy and a good one. The Jewish New Year is coming up on Monday. So happy Rosh Hashanah and Happy New Year to everybody. And I will see you all in 2 weeks. Cece, you're amazing. Thank you so much. GoingSocialMedia.com. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend.